GDPR, what is it? Today, we'll be looking at the implications of GDPR in the workplace and to help us understand what all this means. We've invited today Owen Routhwaite, the MD of Integrated Associates, into the studio. I'm Mitch Hahn and this is Nordens TV. Owen, thank you for coming in. Tell me a bit more about your background and what involvement you have in GDPR.
GDPR is part of the course that I have called InfoSec Awareness for Sales, which is basically a sales course that informs salespeople of how they're going to move and work with security professionals within their customers' environment. GDPR is actually an important part of it because it is a standard that they need to be aware of, as is PCI DSS, as is ISO 27001. So we cover all of these in some sort of detail to make the salesperson aware of how the sales process can be affected.
Thank you. So before anything, does GDPR apply for every business? Does it affect everyone? But is anyone exempt?
Good question. If you're a data subject, in other words, if you're a person that has information about you that describes you, that means you should be part of the GDPR experience. In other words, and also, by the way, it's EU based, so it's something to do with the the EU. If anyone is exempt, then it would be that they don't collect any information on any person, and then they would be exempt from this. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Can you give me an example of a type of company or person that would be exempt? Or is that literally too difficult?
That is really difficult.
So
yes.
I think the fact that the way the future's going, the way where we are now, with companies collecting the data they do for databases and things like that would make everybody. So everybody has to comply with GDPR.
You could say that absolutely everyone has to comply with GDPR.
Business and personal.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a number of things to unpack here, and I think shortly we're going to go through what happens if you are not ready for GDPR and how it will affect you and what to do. But firstly, Owen, why is everything changing? I mean, what's wrong with the Data Protection Act? And what difference is this change to GDPR going to make?
Okay. Well, the Data Protection Act was a 1998 regulation or a set of principles that actually set out how people were going to work with the current data they had at the time. Now, if you think about it today, things have changed dramatically. All right, you have your particular information, and you have your information that is compiled on your smartphone, on your house, on your car, on your, the Internet of Things is really exploding things out, and all of that creates information. And if that information can be tied back to you, then that means that that information needs to be protected. And of course, you as a data subject should say, I need to protect this. This is my information. Consequently, the controller or the company that you work for also has to take that on board and has to say, yeah, we need to protect your information. So that's why we have a data subject, which is you, in your information and all your information. And now there's a data controller, which actually is your business that you work with. And then the data processor is someone that works with your data, which of course also can be controlled. What the heck, it doesn't matter. Those are the three things that are inherent within GDPR that were not there with data protection.
Okay, so is it fair to say that every business owner and every employee has a role to play? They both
absolutely. So the business should actually confer with their subjects, the data subjects or the people they work for, and they should say, what risk is your data, having your data on site here? And they then must make sure that they put out the available risk management procedures to make sure that that risk is met.
And if you're a business owner and it's purely, you're the sole director, sole shareholder, and it's purely just like an SPV or a special purpose vehicle, do you still need to comply with it?
Yes.
So it's not just for companies with staff?
Absolutely.
Okay, so where should we be in the GDPR process as it's going live on the 25th of May, 2018?
Right. Exactly. Well, at this point in time, you should be near the end. You should have actually done your assessment, and your assessment basically is working with your data subjects to find out how their information can be protected. It should look at how the information is being protected, and then of course making sure that everything is in place. That's where you should be. If you haven't started, there's going to be implications to that.
So that's my next question. What happens if we're not set up for GDPR by the 25th of May?
Okay, you leave yourself open is a big question. Firstly, you leave yourself open to the possibility of, if there's a breach and you're found to be the problem, then you'll be fined, or you'll be examined, might we say, and then there's a possibility you will be fined. And the fines for GDPR are massive, as I think it's been widely touted at 4% of global turnover for the company, or 20 million euros, whichever is more. But there again, it is proportional, and it's down to the Information Commissioner's Office to meter out those enforcement charges.
Okay, so the fines are pretty...
They're excessive, yeah.
And so who checks to see whether you're compliant with GDPR?
Okay, so it's down to you as a business, or your business making sure that you comply with the risk management procedures that are set out and are currently in force. And then, of course, if it has to escalate, it goes up to the Information Commissioner's Office, and they do the enforcement part of it. It's going to be mirrored around the EU and, of course, over in America, because this is going to affect everyone around the world.
So Owen, what message would you give to any employees or any business owners who have not yet done anything?
I think the only message I can give is there will be implications if nothing is done. I think from the data subject, in other words, from your perspective, it's down to you to make sure that your data is safe. It's down to the company you work for to make sure that that information is protected. And if they haven't done anything, then possibly email them. Communicate with them saying, I'm not happy with the way that you're looking after my data, because it's down to the data subject.
Yeah.
And the data subject needs to be protected.
Is there still time? I know we're not far from the 25th of May, but
it's not a long process. It's not an arduous process. It's just time consuming.
Yeah.
So there is time. It depends how big you are.
Right. Okay. So there is time. So people shouldn't necessarily panic, because they can still comply with GDPR before the 25th of May. They
Absolutely.
just need to take action.
Yep.
Owen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Mitch.
So as you can see, time is running out. But as Owen said, it's not too late. It's a complex process and the risks are too high to not talk to a specialist, which we can help you with whatever industry you're in. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. Our numbers are coming up on the screen.